Hello, my name is Tony DeRay. I'm the CEO of BSI Corporate Benefits. I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Shane Burcaw. Shane, welcome to my first attempt at talking to people that are more interesting than me throughout COVID-19.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, you're in what looks like the middle of a medieval dining room. So this is going to be fun. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate your support of my background. I will say that I have 3 kids, and my 5-year-old thinks that he's actually a gift to Zoom meetings. So if he does show up, please don't encourage him at any point in time because he's quite the ham.
Maybe we should have him do the interview rather than you. That might be.
Well, I would assume he could do it pretty well. How you been, man?
I've been good. So I'm in Minneapolis. That's where I'm living these days. It's still basically winter here, which is making the quarantine a little bit more frustrating because I'm inside a lot. But life is good. I've always worked from home, so that aspect of it isn't a whole lot different. The only big thing that's different is I'm not traveling for speaking engagements and book signings and stuff like that. So a little bit more indoorsy nowadays, but otherwise I'm doing good.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll give you everybody a little bit of background on Shane and I and our story relationship. So it's probably about 10 years ago, I think, that we met. You went to Moravian college, not university, right? I went to Wilkes University, so I don't know what the difference is. Can you explain that to me?
I have no idea.
But Shane went to Moravian. He was a journalist, and I don't remember how we specifically got hooked up, but I know we ended up, I think it was Johnny's Bagels in downtown Bethlehem. And I just remember 5 minutes in, we were shooting the stuff back and forth as if we knew each other for all the 20 years before that. So
yeah, I think we met at like a nonprofit event or fundraising event. It may have been a Chamber of Commerce event, and you had expressed interest in learning more about our nonprofit organization, and we met up to have a business meeting or whatever, and it ended up just being a friendship. So it was cool to have that in addition to all the support that you've given out.
I mean, 10 years ago, I barely remember what I ate for breakfast, but 10 years ago, I'm trying to remember, but I just remember hearing so much about you. And you were writing periodically for the Morning Call, correct? Just writing articles. Yeah,
I began writing for the Morning Call while I was in college at Moravian. That was kind of how I began my career as a writer. Did that for about 2 years. And then my first book came out in 2014 maybe. And that was the beginning of the whole book thing. But yeah.
Which is awesome, by the way. Your Morning Call stuff was, your early work was a bit limited, but the books you wrote that are bestsellers, but they've improved, on your ability since then. But yeah, so I think, I have thought about Shane a lot, during these last couple of weeks. This is week 5 or whatever it is, for the entire world. Mm-hmm. Having to look for what I have kind of referred to as just this perspective, on this, new normal is a term that is thrown out there a lot, but I kind of thought about you with respect to, I think that you have the opportunity to bring so much perspective to kind of this situation in whole. There's a lot of people out there that are, kind of terrified of their shadow, their next step. And I think about, you and your story, and, can you just kind of walk me through just a little bit kind of, from, when you were little and, what you got diagnosed with, and then ultimately, kind of how you found a successful nonprofit organization called Laughing at My Nightmare, which it's not the normal name of a community or nonprofit that we, from a BSI perspective, support, but it's awesome the work you do, which we'll get to. But can you just kind of give the background of the things that you've had to overcome and push during life?
Yeah, so I'll try to be brief here. I'm a writer, so I tend to get wordy here. I was born with a disease, a neuromuscular disease called Spinal Muscular Atrophy, that essentially causes my muscles to weaken and waste away as I get older. So I never crawled, I never walked. I got my first wheelchair when I was like 2 years old, and I began running people over shortly thereafter. I rely on other people for help with pretty much every physical aspect of my life. I can operate my wheelchair, my phone, my laptop, video games. But outside of that, with things like feeding myself or using the bathroom, getting dressed, I need help with all that stuff because I'm very weak. The disease is progressive. However, as of like 4 years ago, there are several treatments now on the market that stop that progression, and I am on one of them. So I'm not getting weaker as I get older, and that is a wonderful change in the kind of the future of the disease for me. But I think that when I tend to give that rundown of what my disease is like, people automatically assume a lot about what my entire life must have looked like. Our society holds some pretty wrong ideas about what disability is like. My life was awesome. It is awesome. And I've had the opportunity to do a lot of really cool things in my life. From my work to, I am surrounded by great friends and family. I live here in Minneapolis with my fiance Hannah and our dog Chloe. So my life is not like this sad, bleak existence that you might think when you hear like, oh, muscle wasting, like can't do anything on his own. It's not like that. And the nonprofit Laughing at My Nightmare Inc. came about while I was attending Moravian with my cousin Sarah, who you know well. And Sarah and I used to read, I wrote a blog at the time, back when blogging was a thing that people did. And my blog was becoming pretty popular. And Sarah and I would read the messages together, and it was crazy to hear how people were connecting with my story and taking away this message that like laughter and humor and support can help anyone get through the difficulties that they face. And we began Laughing at My Nightmare to give back to the muscular dystrophy community, help people that have diseases similar to mine. And it's been 8 or 9 years that we've been doing that. And I've been amazed to see it grow in the way it has. We've given over like $250,000 in equipment like wheelchairs, ramps, vans, and it's just been really fun. So you and VSI have been there from the very beginning, back when we had no idea what we were doing. And you've been there the whole way, and we appreciate that. So
yeah,
that is my story in a nutshell.
Well, I think you pack a lot of awesome accomplishments in only a couple of minutes there, but I think it's from my vantage point, as a relatively positive person, just in general, I think you take it to a whole new level, and that's why I gravitated to you right away. But the things I remember talking to you about a decade ago were like, hey, I'd love to be able to like fly in an airplane, right? And like you just keep checking things off boxes, right? Like you've done this, you've done that. You moved to Minneapolis. I mean, I haven't had the privilege of meeting Hannah yet. I mean, I don't know necessarily what she sees in you, but, outside of my own personal opinion, I said to you when you let me know you're getting married, I said, you are joining the crowd with perspective. You're marrying up just like the rest of us, without a doubt. But I think that the perspective that you bring that way, and I think what you practice is what I think is really important right now with things that people are going through with respect to COVID and, kind of dealing with mental health and being in isolation and all those kind of things where I feel like you've always dealt with it in a way in which you're never looking in the mirror. You're always looking at, the other direction. You're always looking at how you can help other people. And I've kind of looked at that as like the positive of the selfishness in giving, where my most positive days over the last 6 weeks, and really in my entire career, is being able to participate and help other great organizations. And it brings this feeling that there's really no other replacement for them in the business world with, respect to sales or anything like that. And I think that you mastered that with, the kinds of things and, getting to like what I've seen you do just in the last 6 weeks. I would think, to your point about people not understanding, your situation and judging, even me knowing you as well as I do, I would think to myself, oh my gosh, people are running around scared that if they catch this, everybody's going to die. Where you've been in this situation, I'm assuming, a little bit different immune system, more susceptible to things, than, your average, healthy individual. So my immediate thought is, well, geez, is Shane okay? Like, what's going to happen to Shane? How are his lungs? How's he going to handle something like this? Where do they got to put him to make sure that he's okay? And how do you respond? I turn around and I hear from you that you're immediately recognizing everybody that Laughing at My Nightmare helps and raising money to support people who are in isolation that are in some of the same circumstances there. So can you kind of talk about that mindset on how quickly your mind works to take a situation like this and immediately turn it into something positive, in this environment?
Yeah, I think the first really important caveat is that I don't want to come off with this idea that like I'm always sunshine and rainbows. Like there are totally things in my life, especially now, that are frustrating and like, there are days when I'm just not in a good mood. I really can't stand people that put out this message of like positivity all the time. That's not the answer. But when I am like frustrated or going through difficult things, I do tend to have to fit in more of a problem-solving type mindset. Like, what can I do to get my brain, my mind, to a better, more productive, healthy place? COVID has been weird. As you said, my immune system's fine. I have a completely normal immune system, but if I did get the virus, my lungs are not able to fight off a severe respiratory disease or illness. And so I've had to be extremely careful. The people around me, my family and friends, have had to be extremely careful because the smallest slip up could be the end of it for me. And, living with that kind of like uncertainty every day for the last 2 months has been heavy. It's been a lot, but I like to use moments like that to realize that, if I'm feeling this way, there are 1,000, 100,000 other people feeling this way. And, what can I do, what can Laughing at My Nightmare do to help that situation? We had the idea to launch a program that helps people get essential needs. People with disabilities can apply to our COVID-19 resource relief program. Very simple, through our website. And when they're approved, we send them a $100 gift card to buy food and water and sanitary items. I have been lucky that I have the things that I need, but I know there are a lot of people with disabilities right now who are having trouble accessing the things that they need. And it's been unreal. The public really rallied around this idea. We've already given over 30,000 in these gift cards in like 3 weeks. And we hope to give close to 90,000 by the end of the year. You and BSI have really helped with that. And it's been so cool to see the public just give their time and money to make this happen.
Yeah. Well, again, I even think there in dealing with, a lot of different community organizations and nonprofits, I've definitely seen two camps, come out of this situation where in general, there's that paralyzed by fear where, the world is moving so fast right now. I'm on calls every single morning with, politicians and how they're handling, insurance and bills and clients, and, what was correct advice in the morning is obsolete and incorrect in the next day. So it's really a chaotic environment that way. But I definitely have seen those two camps where it's, pushing, it's the other choice to either push forward, and be willing to maybe make some mistakes, but you got to evolve and adapt versus just kind of hide in a shell, and I think that to your credit, I've seen some other, nonprofits, because the world is so focused on one specific situation, right? The COVID-19. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of nonprofits that, are involved with, these things that are still out there, all the things and all the people that, are dealing with your similar ailment. You've got, cancer patients, you've got, the life goes on part of all this great work that nonprofits do. But some of them, it seems to me, haven't figured out a way to pivot, right. So, and they've suffered there because the money's dried up, because you've got business community, in the business world. I got financial people all over the place. And in these type of environments, they're just shouting, pull back, conserve cash, cash is king. And who do you cut? Well, nonprofits and community support are some of the first things that are on the chopping block. Yeah. And your ability to pivot and say, okay, how can we be relevant in this environment, and immediately adopt that strategy to be relevant and to, come to your supporters with a relevant message that can help the families that you help. I mean, there's a huge business lesson in that for me. I don't know if you fashion yourself as a business mind, amongst everything else, but certainly a lot of the things that you do, they show tremendous leadership, but I think they also give, me, and they should give other business leaders and owners a good direction, because you were in an environment, forget even for a second about what you mentioned about your own, well-being and, how serious this could be for you personally, but you run an organization and how important the end users are. And for you to be able to pivot, I was just really amazed at how quickly you were able to adapt and put your ground game on, because, I deal with organizations that are 10 times the size as you and still are trying to figure out where do we fit in all of this. So, certainly kudos to you for, being adaptive. You have that, I love that saying, I think I might butcher it, but the idea of whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I don't know if you ever heard that or not, but I really feel that that's true. And, the idea where it's like, I don't know if you drive some of your people crazy the way I do sometimes, where it's like, you wake up and you have these ideas and then you're like, we're doing this, and then everybody around you is like, oh, here he goes again, So
I would say that is kind of how Laughing at My Nightmare has functioned since our beginning. Every year when we sit down to make a budget, we're like, let's put this number way higher than we think we can actually do, with very little plan of how to get there. And then along the way, because we've set that goal for ourselves, we figure it out along the way. A lot of our ideas, when Sarah and I, have it, 2 or 3 years ago, we had this idea, when our annual revenue was still fairly small. We said, let's raise enough money to give away a fully accessible van this year, $50,000 or $60,000. And that made up probably half of our revenue that year. And we were like, okay, well, that's unreal. Like, we won't be able to do that. But we were like, no, let's do it. And I mean, our organization has been extremely fortunate to have such strong support, not only in the Lehigh Valley community, but in the online world. We have followers from all over the world because of the videos that my fiance and I make, and the books that I've written, and all the online stuff. And so we're in this position where we can kind of say, let's do this wild idea that like might not work, and just push ourselves to keep growing and really helping more people every year. That's kind of the biggest motivator behind it is like, what can we do to help more people than we did last year? And I have to say, Lamb would not be here without Sarah. Sarah is the backbone of this organization, and it's been amazing working with my cousin, who also happens to be one of my best friends, and now my co-worker of 8 or 9 years. So it's been really cool, and couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, no, it's certainly in knowing her for as long as I've known you.
Yeah,
Probably the same day, I'm assuming we all together, and
yeah,
I think like anybody else, the team members that I work with, I'm humbled by them every day, and the things that they do, the passion, and all of the commitment that they bring to it, and she certainly brings it, in a big way. What would a message be, for someone, kind of that. The individual that kind of is struggling a little bit, potentially, our BSI team is completely secure, working from home. We're busier than ever, but we do have challenges potentially down the road. But they're secure. But we have different people who have family members who have been laid off, or family members who are ill. What's a general message for someone when you talk about perspective and the way in which people, your message to people about kind of getting through this, and the way to look at kind of a day-to-day and, the horizon, on this very unique time in all of our lives?
That is a huge question. I am not the one to give advice like that. I think on a smaller scale, when I'm facing problems that are like huge, like lifelong kind of like frustrations, like to give you an example, like inaccessibility in our world. Like the world is not accessible for people like me who use wheelchairs. And that is a problem that's going to be around for probably my entire life. And I think that it can feel really, really daunting when you're facing a problem that feels like insurmountable, like everything going on right now. Like, people being laid off, people not having income, people figuring out how they're going to make it, having family in the hospital or whatever. Like, these are problems that, are not easily solved. And so whenever I'm facing something like that, I try to break it down into small, like tiny steps that I can take to get towards a solution. So that if I continue each day to take those steps, I'm slowly working towards solving the big problem. And I have a hard time saying, like I said, try to be positive on the bright side. But allow yourself to feel negative emotions, and then ask yourself, like, what can I do today or even this hour to make at least a little bit of progress towards where I want to be. It's a big, uncertain time that we're facing right now, and I think allowing ourselves to kind of accept that and realize, like, we're living through history right now, and when we look back on this in 70 years, we're going to be like, wow, that was horrible. So it's okay that we're all feeling kind of like right now. But I, at least in my own life, try to do a few things every day that are positive steps in the right direction. So I don't know if that's advice. I'm only 27. I have no idea.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, you are beyond your years. There's no doubt about it. I sincerely look to you, and things that you've done and accomplished. Anybody that knows you or knows of you, your legend, so to speak. I think that the general concept is there's so much to learn about the power of that I can, and the way in which that you conduct yourself and have constantly, thought about other people, in their situations and how you can support them. And there's such a magic to that I certainly feel, all through this and in general about doing what I can to help out, in the community, because there's really no feeling like it when you can really do something for someone else. It kind of gives great perspective. It cuts right through things, and it allows you to kind of see, in a different light. And to your point about setting off every year and not really sure, where you're going to end up, what the budget is, but just going with that I can attitude, and then being able to accomplish the things that you have along the way. Just says so much of you, and obviously Sarah and everything that she does. And then your message, it obviously resonates, out there, in the world for what you do. Quickly, just a couple of things, just so people, if they want to kind of check out more, can you give them a little bit of information on best place to go, the website, not just for, obviously COVID relief, which I know that you have a link for, but, also your books, et cetera, because they're great reads, and it brings you through, 100%. Maybe it doesn't bring you through the way that me and you talk to each other offline where we're texting back and forth. That's not just for us, but in general, they can get a pretty good sense of your sense of humor by reading the books.
Yeah, I have to give you a little warning there. There's some adult-themed content in my books, at least my longer books. I also wrote a children's book. There's no adult-themed content in there.
Wow, that was smart.
But yeah, I would say first and foremost, check out laughingatmynightmare.com. That is the nonprofit website. You can learn all about our variety of programs, from the COVID relief to the equipment granting to the disability awareness training that we do in schools all across the country. I really appreciate you listening to that. You should also check out the YouTube channel that I do with my fiance called Squirmy and Drubs. We didn't really get into this, but on there we document our relationship and try to improve the public understanding of disability and give like the authentic story of disability. So they kind of go hand in hand with the nonprofit. And then if you want to, get a book, they're called Laughing at My Nightmare is the first one. Not So Different is the children's book that I wrote. And then my third book is called Strangers Assume My Girlfriend is My Nurse. That is all about all the misconceptions that our society has about disability. So those are areas where you can learn more about everything that me and the people around me are doing, and I really appreciate it.
You got it. So do you now have to put a sticker across all of those books on for girlfriend and put fiance? Like how are you managing the shelf now that you guys have decided to move on to the marital bliss?
I know the title is outdated. I would do that, but then when we get married, I'd have to change it to wife. So I'm just gonna leave it, and we'll hope people don't ask questions.
What's the update there on when was the date? What was the date scheduled for?
Right now it's scheduled for September. We're uncertain about what that looks like right now, but we're taking it day by day, and we'll make adjustments if we need to.
Well, keep me posted, man, because no matter when it happens, you couldn't get rid of me 10-foot pole. So it doesn't matter what you reschedule for, I'm going to be there.
All right, I might give you the wrong date so that you travel out to Minneapolis. Oh, Tony, I forgot to tell you, we moved it.
Well, yeah, I'll look forward to it, man. And it's great to see you, and certainly, thanks for doing this, and certainly stay safe and healthy, and keep that personality and that sense of humor. And as obviously anything I could do for you, keep me posted.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your support of our nonprofit. It means a lot to us.
Okay. All right. Tell Hannah and Sarah I said hello. Okay, buddy.
I will. All right. Have a good day.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.